Hey, dedicated Patreons and new Patreons, by the way, in case that you are listening to this. Welcome to Spoiler Talk for One Small Sacrifice. Rob, what the fuck is One Small Sacrifice? What does that title mean? I just said it, and it occurred to me that I...
No, it happened at the end. It was in there. When they were talking about... I think the small sacrifice thing first came up when it was about what Emily was going to do as far as confessing to the things that she was involved in. Alex told her that telling the truth about something was a small sacrifice, I believe.
Interesting. I don't feel like it fits the book. And it just occurred to me. This is fresh. Like, this wasn't scripted. Like, I just said it. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? Yeah.
I guess my bone with that is the book is much more about lies and secrecy and how our lies and the things that we hide from each other hurt each other than it is like the altruistic thing that we do to make people's lives better.
Dude, everybody was hiding shit.
Yeah.
It's a little fucking crazy.
So it could have been like Pile of Lies. I don't know. One Small Sacrifice is a really good name for a book. Pile of Lies.
It's better than Pile of Lies, I guess.
I would totally read Pile of Lies, though.
Kevin Stanton, who I don't think we even mentioned in the reviews, Corey's dad, is actually the antagonist, right? He's the one who kidnapped Emily. What did you think as you were reading along? Like, I really thought this was all going to be Will from like probably about 30% in.
Yes. So, my first suspect was actually C.J. Leeward.
Oh, interesting.
The lawyer. Because he had a secret past with Emily. But then there was things that he said where I was like, oh, this is coming back somehow. And it came back in a very, like, neutral or innocent way later on. They were basically hiding that CJ was non-gay, married to Emily at one point, and that was a very minuscule part of the plot. And it was much more of a, what do you call that, a red herring?
Yes, and there were a lot of
there's a lot of herrings. It was like in Seattle, that Pike's Place where they're throwing fish around.
Yeah. Yes,
a lot of herring flying around in this one.
But overall, for this type of book, which is not my favorite type of book, I think that she did a pretty good job with like the misdirection, and the actual reveal was pretty good. And then beyond the reveal, she went a little farther. So typically in a book like this, that rooftop showdown would have been the end of it, right?
Right.
But she did carry it on to Will, who, like how guilty is Will? All right, so he kind of blackmailed Emily, right? But beyond that, like, my issue with it is the big bad is clearly Kevin, right? Like, Will's a douchebag.
Right.
But it felt like the closure on Will was the big part of the book because it was given enough time at the end, if that makes sense. And that didn't, my head didn't sit right, so to speak.
Well, and that's kind of the interesting thing about this book, because it's not just one plot working against the good guys. It's the crazy, bereaved father who's the guy who's, mainly responsible for shit, but layered on top of, like, the craven, evil kind of ex-brother of the protagonist that, like... So those two lines are kind of concurrent in their shittiness toward the protagonist, and so they kind of confuse the reader a little bit, which I thought was well done. But to your point, I guess my question is, like, what would have been a better treatment for the resolution of the Will Stanton story?
Yeah, I wish I had that answer. I don't,
because I thought it was. I thought it wrapped up nicely. It was your episode of Law and Order wrap up. It was very.
Yes.
It was like we've got 5 minutes left in the episode, and we're just wrapping it up tight. Whereas the Will thing was the lesser plot that took longer. I totally get what you're saying, but it had greater. Well, I guess once they were out of danger, the Will plot had more possible negative effects than the Stanton plot.
Well, and she handled it right. Like they're at the courthouse, some time has passed. You know what I mean? It wasn't another showdown.
Right,
Like
right. It wasn't like
moments after
Rooftop
or whatever.
Part 2.
So yeah, yep,
They're
yeah.
back on the rooftop.
Mm-hmm. Now I do have one. I don't know if it's a criticism. Here's what I would have liked to have seen around Kevin Stanton. So for anybody who didn't read it, that's Corey's dad, who ultimately kidnaps Emily to frame Alex for her murder so that he can get justice for his girl, right? Which is fine, except for the fact that, and here's what I would have liked to have seen. There are very, very strong implications, although he never fesses up to anyone, that he molested her after his wife died.
Right.
Which then automatically just makes him a bad guy. So even though he's the one who lost a girl, like you can't root for him anymore. You know what I mean? It would have been,
right.
I think, a little more interesting as a character if we left that out and he was just a genuinely loving, grieving father. Like I think I would have found that more compelling.
Mad with grief as opposed to just being a really bad guy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, he probably loved his daughter. He wouldn't have cared that she was killed. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of, it would have made it more compelling. He would have been a more compelling character for me if they didn't use 3 lines, which I think is all it's attributed to it in the whole book, and that he did bad shit to her when she was younger.
Yeah. And then the tricky part with that is Corey, the way she says it to Alex is something along the lines of, after her mom died, he turned me into a wife in every way, I think is kind of how she said it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's obviously manipulative because she was trying to get him to commit suicide with her. She's not a good person.
After sleeping with her.
After
trying to get him to sleep
After trying to seduce him, she's like goading him into jumping off the building with her, we discover at the end of the book. And so like she's a real shitty person in general, which it's nice that Emily knew that, and she was like, she was, not happy with Corey being in their life. But Corey could have just said that to make her dad look bad.
That's true. I guess, though, if that's the case, I would have liked a clearer
like
statement.
There was something that makes that obviously not true or something. Yeah. And we didn't get that.
And you could have even done it with when Alex confronts him on the rooftop about it.
Right.
Where he actually stops in shock.
Like
where you can kind of tell that it's, like, wait a minute.
Stunned by it or something.
My God, what? Yeah. Yeah. So at any rate, that was my one thing that I thought for me would have improved and gave this a little more depth.
Yeah.
Than the way that it played out.
That being said, so I love the way the book plays out because they find the farm that Emily's on and they go there and there's that creepy shed that is like a shrine to Corey.
Yeah, shrine. Yep.
But with a weird note that says like, if I die, I'm not going out alone or something, which that's, I feel like that's more, no one would really do that in real life. And there was a couple of moments in this book where I was like, no one would really say that, or no one would really do that in real life. And that was one of those moments where it was so theatrical. Like he knows they're going to go into the shed while the building is what, you know what I'm saying? So that was a little bit, that pushed the envelope a little bit, but at the same time, it was a cute touch that there was even this weird shrine. Because then you're like, oh, she's under the building or something, because we knew she was in a basement place.
I feel bad that I forgot about this altogether. The fucking house blowing up was some fucking first level bullshit.
It was a crime procedural thing. It's absolutely what it was. But I mean,
just
a gas leak.
I
don't know.
He just doesn't strike me as the guy that had that's a like a bioterrorist, like it's rigged to blow if anybody comes in kind of thing. Not a, even if he's, obviously plotting. That just didn't strike me as the kind of thing that like a grieving person looking for revenge does, is like rig a house with explosives to kill the cops when they come in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and there's some holes in this. Like if you're at stage 4, if you have stage 4 pancreatic cancer and you have a month to live, there's no way you're doing an eighth of the things that this guy was able to do in this book.
Yeah,
but I'm not splitting hairs on that. If that's what she wants, that's what she can put in her book. That's fine.
Sure.
It was very. There were some elements of the plot that were very. This is a crime book that's appealing to a mass of people that don't understand the way that reality works a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't understand the depth of things, so you can get away with these little embellishments here and there. Is kind of how I took that.
Yeah, it's a mass market. I mean, it's a hardcover book right now, but I mean, you're definitely your Walgreens mass market paperback. So for sure.
Yeah, and everybody who's picking this up at the Walmart checkout is going to be super happy with the whole plot. It's probably the smartest book they're ever going to read.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Whoa, was I just a little judgmental there?
Just a little bit. Look, hey, I will not be able to say that The Mister was a better book than this one, this episode at least. So.
No, I hope not. I would hope not.
Patrons, Patreons, I don't even know what we're supposed to call them. You, the great people that are able to listen to this, you guys do a tremendous job of making us continue to do this. I mean, we'd probably do it anyway, but quite honestly, it's far more rewarding knowing that people care enough to part with their hard-earned money. So thank you again. I can tell you there'll be no spoiler talk next week. That's all I'm going to say for right now, but I expect there will be spoiler talk in 2 weeks. So check back then.